Hey everybody, it's Kevin from 3D Printed Props. In today's video, we are going to be looking at the WeCreat 40-watt laser. This thing is super fun to use. So usually on the channel we look at 3D prints and 3D printers and things like that, some cosplay, but I have really been wanting to do some projects that are going to have to incorporate some laser cutting and some laser engraving. So I was super excited when WeCreat reached out to me to see if I wanted to show this off to you guys. And yes, they did give it to me free. I don't have to send them the video beforehand, so I can say anything I want. They see it when you see it. Now, you might have seen me use a laser a few times, one in the heart eyes video, that's gonna come up in one of the corners. One you haven't probably seen actually, it's gonna be for the Ghostbusters pack. That video will be out pretty soon, where I cut out the discs for it. And that laser is okay, but this one I really enjoyed because as someone who isn't super familiar with lasers, I literally plugged this thing in. I looked at the instructions a little bit. The software, which we'll look at itself, super easy to use. And I was just able to do some cutting and some engraving. And I I found it really easy. It was great. Now, they did send me their 40 watt, and they did send me this Fume extractor. As you know, my shop is in my basement, and my wife doesn't like any bad smells in the house, so all spray painting is done either outside or, well, never inside, it's outside. And I was worried about lasers. Yes, I could do it in the garage, but that cuts out most of the winter months here in upstate New York. Past October, I would worry that it would be damaged maybe in the cold of my garage. So I was hoping that the Fume extractor would do the trick. So how we're going to work the video out is pretty much like 3D printers. We're going to go ahead and look at the specs of both the laser. My key is going to not say printer throughout this video. We're going to look at the specs of the laser and the Fume extractor, talk about that, and then we'll go ahead and look at some projects that I worked on, some cutting and some engraving of some different materials. I do some cutting and engraving in just your standard sort of basswood, you know, some acrylics, and then some EV foam, which I'm really excited because that's one of the projects I'm going to start working on. So we'll do that, and then if you want to hang around and see the unboxing and setup, that'll be at the end, or you can skip to that using the chapters below and then just jump around however you want. So let's go ahead and talk about what the WeCreat has and what the specs are. Okay, so right off the bat, you can see that the amber screen is huge, and it is laser safe, so you don't have to wear goggles when you're using this. The surface is a nice powder blue. It's a midnight blue, actually, color they're calling it. And we're cutting a piece of basswood here, and this has a max speed of 600 millimeters a second. And of course, when you lift the lid, it turns off the job, hit the button, and it starts it right back up. That is a great safety feature. It's got a high-res camera and enough lighting to illuminate the work surface, which is really great. But the main thing that we all know about it with this is it is self-leveling. So the unit actually moves up and down, pretty much because it's two separate units, separating by this sort of felt pad. And you can exhaust through the back. It comes with air assist, so you can get a nice clean cut and minimal scorching. Wi-Fi enabled, which is really nice, and it comes with grates, not a honeycomb, which is pretty cool. Now, you can get multiple accessories. One of the most interesting is this sheet feeder that will let you do a huge piece of material, 137 inches by 14.9 inches. And it has a rotary attachment that lets you do multiple size tumblers and other items. Now, the Fume extractor comes with 3 levels of filtration. So there's a primary cotton filter, a true HEPA, and a level of activated carbon filter, which is really going to help clean the air. Now, software-wise, it comes with its own WeCreat and Make It, and if we look at this, we can see first things you should do is check out your settings. Do you want it in inches? You should always, of course, check out to see add your Wi-Fi settings and add those in there if you're going to be printing through Wi-Fi, and then check if there are any updates. Are there any updates in the firmware? Are there any updates in the software? this is a good thing to do to make sure you're working with the latest. Now we're going to do the camera calibration. If you remember, we got a piece of wood for that. We measure the wood with a pair of calipers. We added that information, and now it's just going to go through and calibrate the camera. Now it is going to, of course, mark up one side of this, but you could always use it for something else later on. And you can see, there we go. It went ahead and calibrated the camera to make sure everything is right. Now we're going to go ahead and make some stuff. Let's look at their interface. It's pretty neat because, wow, you can download all of this stuff. They're all right there. You've got people reviewing them. This is where you're going to save your information. And this is the actual workspace itself. One of the things I really like, especially if you're new to lasers, in the materials section, you can go through all of these different materials, wood, leathers, plastics, and different types of wood, leather, plastic, and choose the millimeter, and it does the settings. So let's go ahead and burn something up in the beginner area, something simple that'll show some things off. So I saw this frame, and there's a lot of intricate cuts in there. You can see the filigree in that. So I thought this would be a good thing to do. And we're simply going to go ahead and load it, and it actually breaks out all the pieces, and we can see there's quite a few. We're not going to print all of these for this test. We're just going to go ahead and print this one, the one that uses the most cuts. And you can see that it's set to acrylic, and this is an acrylic which we're going to be cutting on. So I'm going to set it to wood, basswood, and the millimeter of basswood that I have. Look at that. It already set it up for me, so I don't need to do any of that myself. I'm going to do an autofocus, so it's going to actually do that focus where it moves up and down. And this isn't, we don't have to use like little blocks to do manual focusing. This thing just focuses it. I go ahead and send it to the laser itself. Once you do that, you have to push the button, and it tells you that to actually start the process. And you can see here, it is cleaning. I have sped this up, but look at how sharp these cuts are. There's like no scorching due to the air assist. The cuts are so clean and so precise. I was super impressed with this. I mean, look at that. No scorching in there, and just super, super clean. I thought I'd cut out something of mine that I downloaded. This was from Etsy. I'll have links to all these files. Big horror buff, so these were definitely some fun things. And you can see here, we're going to do some engraving. So the blue is marked as engraving, and I select the red, and you can see it set as cut. And we're going to set one of those later on. And you can see I can just use that camera, center it in this piece of wood, and do the engraving. So it's doing that first pass, which is the engraving, and then it's going to zip through and do that red layer, that's the cutting, and you can see again, really, really precise cuts, great engraving, some nice depth to that, really, really clean. Now, I did want to try some, just some plexi, some engraving on a piece of plexi. So this is just a little scrap, little piece I had around. And again, this is great. I'm using the camera. I'm just centering it in there. I chose the materials. I didn't have to know, well, what do you do for acrylics? Bang, it's right there. And there you go. Look at that, how clean and crisp those engravings are. And I didn't have to know any of the settings because they're right in there. Really, really happy with that. Now, I did want to try some engraving and cutting on some transparent plexiglass. Since this is, of course, a diode laser, it cannot cut or engrave into clear, but this is a piece of red, another monster here. This is Ghostface, and sped up quite a bit. But you can see that it does our first pass, which of course we set as an engraving level, and then our second level was a cut, and look at how clean that engraving is and how clean that cut is. It is just super cool looking, and really, really happy with how this is turning out. And again, I'm not having to know this is this setting and this is what I've got to set for this. Really, really happy with it. Of course, had to do a map. So these are some maps I'm fooling around with, like maps from horror movies. So this is actually the mall from Dawn of the Dead. I made a mistake. You can see the things are a little off kilter, but it was a good test to see nice, crisp, clear lines, and I was super happy with it. Now, the other thing you can do is add your own material. So I'm going to be working on a project that I need EVA foam. So I did some tests, and when I came up with the numbers that worked properly after the test, I went ahead and added these materials. So this is 1mm EVA foam, and it's under customization now. I can choose that, the millimeter it is, and then look at that. It just does such an amazing job cutting EVA foam. Okay, so let's talk about the pros and cons of the laser. Now, first, okay, we'll talk about the pros. Super easy setup. If you have watched the unboxing, it's at the end of this video, and assembly, you will see that it is ridiculously simple. This thing comes 99.9% put together. The Fume extractor is 100% put together, minus putting the hose on. So that was great. If you are getting into lasers and you want something that's pretty much plug and play bulletproof, this is definitely one you should look at. I have had a few other lasers, none of which were this easy to use and put together. So this will be making, this will stay in the standard rotation, and I'll get rid of all the other ones that I've accumulated over the years. So that's pretty cool. So that is a plus. The other pro that I really like is this big window. That is laser safe, so I don't need to be wearing goggles. I love the autofocus. To not have to always keep track of that little step focusing piece that you'd put down on the piece of basswood or the piece of acrylic or whatever you would put it down on, and then raise and lower the laser so it touches it, and you know, that was always such a pain, keeping track of it in the shop. You'd think you'd put it right by the laser. I wouldn't. I would put it in my pocket, and then it would end up in the wash. So I hit a button, it raises, lowers, and focuses. So those things are huge, huge pluses to using this laser. So let's look at the cons. The two things that I kind of thought could use some improvement. I don't know if one even can, but that really kind of was like, really? Why is this happening? So the first one is going to be the autofocus. Now, I know what you're saying. You just said that was a pro, and it is. It's a super pro. What I don't like that you have to do is autofocus every time. So let's say I've got a piece of 1mm wood in the laser, and I do a quick test engraving, and then I set my piece up, you know, on the other side of the board, because there's plenty of board left, I'm not going to just throw it away. I go ahead and put my design on this other side of the board. I've got to hit autofocus again. It should have something where it lets me save or lock in what it's at, so it doesn't have to go up and down every single time I'm going to do a print. Like maybe you can lock in the millimeter, the thickness of the thing, and you can choose from that, so it doesn't have to keep autofocusing. Is it a huge thing? No, it takes seconds to go up and down, 10, 15 seconds. It looks kind of neat, but it seems like, if you were doing production work and you were really trying to crank some stuff out, time is money, and any little bit could help if you could just lock that setting in. Now, the next thing is a really big con for me. Now, again, this is a con that is due to the pro. It is the fact that, yes, this moves up and down to autofocus. Now, to do that, there obviously has to be a gap between the top of this printer, the part that's got the laser in it, and the bottom. There has to be a gap. And it uses sort of like brushes, like a brush seal for that gap. And that's the problem. You might be getting, understanding where I'm going at here. When you're cutting wood and you're cutting anything and it's making fumes, like I cut a picture frame. When I cut that picture frame out, that thing was smoking like crazy because it was just so much cutting. And yes, you could see the fume extractor sucking that stuff in. I mean, you could see it. It's very powerful. It's awesome. The problem is the gap on the side, the fact that it isn't a seal. It really made my basement area here, the shop area, smell like a campfire. And as you may have guessed, my wife was not pleased. Yes, you couldn't smell it upstairs. I had windows open, which I wouldn't be able to do in the winter. I did have the fume extractor going, but because of those gaps, I definitely got a strong smell downstairs of burning wood. Now, if that had been acrylic, it would have been a plasticky smell, and that would have been even worse. This thing would have been put out in the garage in 2 seconds. My wife is very accommodating and incredibly awesome for letting me do everything I do. My God, there's a life-size R2-D2s around the house, you know what I mean? But she draws the line with plastic smell and wood smell burning through the house on a daily basis. So if you're in an apartment, if you're in a small apartment, if you think you're just gonna set this up and be cutting wood and use one of these or even extract it outside, you're gonna smell something. You're gonna smell it because it's gonna come up through this gap. Now, you might be wondering, what do I plan on doing? Because I really want to use this. I've got a couple projects, 2 or 3 projects coming up that this is really going to come in handy. I am going to either buy or build a little, enclosure. There are those small grow tents, and I'm going to get one of those and just lay it on its side. And then I will still use the fume extractor, but I'll also have the actual grow tent vented. I actually did that for a spray booth I put down here in the shop, which I'm going to show off in a video pretty soon. So along with the tent and having that vented outside, and then the fume extractor also just helping out, then I don't think there's going to be any problem. But again, if you're doing this in a small space, even with this fume extractor, you are going to get a lot of smoke odor, plastic odor, whatever you're burning odor. Now, is there a way to fix that? I don't think so. The only thing I can think of is, instead of maybe using this brush, the sort of hair brush material, using some type of sort of flappy rubber that is more of a seal. I can see how I worry that over time that could get, if it gets older and it gets more brittle, I don't know, but if it's a silicone that seals that off, then I think that would be fantastic. But for now, just know you are going to get that smell. So I definitely plan on using the WeCreat 40-watt laser in a lot more of my projects. I've got 2 projects I'm starting that are going to be done with EVA foam, parts of them, and this is going to make my job so much easier to zip out EVA foam cuts without an X-Acto knife and killing my hands. And I've got a few helmets that I'm working on and other props that will really benefit from cutting of wood parts and plexiglass, that this is going to do so well. So I'm really, really excited. So guys, if you like this video and you're interested in the WeCreat, go ahead and click below in the description. There's links to the WeCreat, plus things I used in this video. They are affiliate links. If you click on them, I will get a little bit of money. And now, I won't be just buying filament with them. I'll be buying materials that I'll be cutting, engraving, and etching on this laser. Too many materials to have to buy. I need some place to put them. They're all over the place right now. But hey, what are you going to do? It's fun stuff. Guys, I hope you liked the video. Please click like and subscribe. Hit the little bell if you want to see new ones. And I will catch you in the next video. Or hang on and watch me unbox and set this thing up. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this sucker out of the box. It wasn't too heavy. We did use 2 people for it. My son was recruited to give me a hand with this. And it wasn't too bad to get downstairs. So we'll just cut this guy open, packed really well. I like that it's got those little corner protection. Very, very sturdy box. Okay, so first off, we are met with a bunch of these plastic tie downs, so we're gonna get rid of those. Okay, so the first thing we see is keep packing materials, laser bed inside, and it looks like under the first bit of styrofoam are the metal grating as our base. So this doesn't come with a honeycomb, it comes with a metal grate, which is nice that it already automatically comes with that. and one is on the other side. So you've got your two grates. So I think you would have probably noticed it, how heavy this foam would have been with them. But just remember, that's where the beds are. Now let's get this foam out of here. Okay, so we got the foam out of there. And the first thing we see is a couple pieces of wood here. And this is for camera recalibration only. So save these, obviously, to calibrate your camera. And the laser is right here, wrapped in plastic. So let's go ahead and get that out of the box. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the box. Let's see if I can do this myself. Yes, not too bad. Okay, there's one thing left in the box. We lift that out, and this is the tray on the bottom to catch any sort of crumbs or pieces that fall off when you are cutting that fall through the grates. So we'll just set that aside. Okay, so it's out of the box, and I have to say, I talk about it every once in a while. I love this electric desk because I can move this table up and down, and I don't have to go over and move the camera around up and down. Really dig it. So let's just get this out of the plastic. Okay, then we've got our instructions, which look pretty good. Very large fonts, which I like, and a lot of pictures, again, which I like. We've got some test pieces that they've done. An engraving of a cat. Not a cat person. I wish it was a dog. But hey, it looks pretty good. This test looks great, very sharp, very clean. We've got a couple things in boxes. The first thing is the some cabling. So we got USB cable. We've got the Fume cap back there to be able to attach our hose to. We've got some tools. We got the Wi-Fi cable because this is Wi-Fi capable. And then we just got a bunch of little connections and doodads like that in that box. Now in the secondary box, we've got the air assist. And more cabling and hoses for that. And then just a big piece of foam. Now the other thing that was in the bottom of that box was the hose for the exhaust and the power brick and power cable to power the unit. Okay, so there was a lot of foam packed in there. I'm glad I got it all out. It was a tight fit, but that's good because it keeps everything from moving around and possibly getting damaged. So fantastic, great packing. So like a lot of modern day printers, like the Bamboos and whatnot, this thing is put together. We don't have to do anything really that has to do with the functioning of the laser. We just have to put on a few of the bits of accessories that make the laser better and work for us. So let's go ahead and finish the assembly. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put on the vent connector, and it's got a nice little bit of foam here to push against the machine so that we get a nice seal. Now the bolts are already on there, so we're just going to go ahead and loosen those up, take them off, and then put the shroud on. Okay, so it is on and ready to take the hose using the clamp, but we'll go ahead and put that on a little bit later. Next thing we're going to do is attach the Wi-Fi antenna, and that just screws in very easily. Then we can turn that, face it up, whatever direction gives us the best signal. So next thing we're going to do is attach the air assist, and this helps us get nice clean cuts with minimal scorching. So we're just going to go ahead and attach this. Now, we've got a power cable, and that simply gets screwed on back there. Okay, so now that we've attached the power, and I'll of course neaten all this up as we go, but I want you to see how I'm doing this. We're going to attach the air assist to the machine itself, and that goes pretty easy with this tube. One end pushes onto here, rubberized, creates a nice seal. The next goes right here, air assist input, and sort of like a 3D printer connection there of days of old, and it holds it in there and it doesn't let it come out. Now, the next two things we have here are, of course, the power input, and this is to connect it to a PC. So now I'm going to neaten everything up, and we're going to continue with the assembly. Okay, now we're going to add the crumb tray, and I thought it was going to be a little easier than this, just sliding it in, but I've got to actually lift the machine up because it sort of goes, the slide isn't until a little bit into the machine, so you kind of got to lift it up to get that crumb tray in there. So I almost wish that the slide started a little early to make that go in easier. Go ahead and take off the plastic covering on top. This is always quite fulfilling. And that is a big amber covering, so we don't have to wear any goggles when we are printing with this, because this is all laser safe, so that's really, really cool. Okay, so I just made a very big mistake. Before you plug it in, there are 6 screws you need to remove. I didn't see these red tags, totally my fault. The 2 back corners. These are transport guide screws to keep everything from moving in transport. If you plug it in and turn it on with these on, it will raise up and then it will make a god-awful noise. Totally my fault. Do not forget to remove the 3 screws on this side and the 3 screws on that side before you plug it in. Oops. So now we just go ahead and put the grates in that the material sits on top of. And we are, believe it or not, done with this assembly. Like I said, not much of an assembly when everything is put together for you and you just need to add some little bit of accessories to make the machine work. So that's it. That's the assembly of the WeCreat 40 watt laser. I love it when a machine comes like 99.9% put together. So now let's go ahead and unbox the Fume extractor and get that assembled, if it needs any assembly. Okay, so let's go ahead and unbox and assemble the Fume extractor. So we've got our instructions, a lot of photos. These are photos, nice. A lot of photos, very large text. I like that. We've got our power cord. We've got some tubing. We actually already got that in the laser. So that's nice, some extra tubing. What else do we have here? We have a connector. It looks like a step down, so that's nice. And then, of course, some foam. So I'm going to go ahead and take the unit out because it looks like that's it for the little accessories we need to put this thing together. Okay, now to begin the assembly, we put this here. It's a friction fit. It's assembled. That's it. It's done. Yes, we need to attach the hose to the laser cutter and engraver using the clamps, but it's ready to go. So thanks for watching me set this thing up. If you want to see the rest of the video, if you skipped over it just to watch this, that's okay. But hit that chapter and go back and learn more about this great laser. If you don't want to and you're done, take it easy, and I will see you in the next one.